Over 40 new westerns are coming soon, including the return of some much-loved franchises. So after a whole lot of research and digging, here is my annual quickfire preview of every upcoming western movie and TV show heading our way in 2026 and beyond. So first up, we have an official remake of A Fistful of Dollars from Eurogang Entertainment, which is run by a trio of Hollywood veterans who collectively have a pretty impressive track record. Also working on the remake is Jolly Film, who actually produced the original 1964 movie. But not much else has been revealed about this new take on Sergio Leone's classic spaghetti western, other than it will most likely be an English language film and is still very much in early development. So keep an eye out for plot and casting announcements in the months ahead. Also in development is a second season of American Primeval, the ultra-violent frontier-set western TV show starring Taylor Kitsch that became a big hit on Netflix last year. And because of this, the limited series looks to be getting an unplanned second season in the near future, with its creator Peter Berg explaining that despite the first season's conclusive ending, they will try to find a way to continue the show, possibly via a prequel. So although Netflix has yet to confirm a second season, there is definitely an appetite from those behind the show to continue the series, as long as they can figure out a story worth telling. Another western movie in the works is Billy the Kid, a new biopic from American Animals director Bart Layton, with Barry Keoghan set to star as the famous real-life outlaw. And the actor has revealed the movie to be a passion project of his, expressing an interest in humanizing Billy the Kid in a way that breaks away from the typical facade of him being a cool and collected gunslinger. However, there have been very few updates about the movie since its announcement in 2023, so at the moment it's not entirely clear how the movie is progressing. Up next, we have Bitterroot, a new neo-western thriller reportedly being directed by David Fincher for Netflix. And the film sounds like a mix between Unforgiven and Hell or High Water, following an elderly Montana rancher who, after becoming a victim of fraud, decides to hunt down the thieves, attracting the attention of the local sheriff who just happens to be his son. But with Fincher currently working on a Chinatown prequel in Squid Game's America, it might be a while until we hear more about the film. Another huge western on the way is Blood Meridian, a feature film adaptation of the famous novel of the same name by Cormac McCarthy, who was actually all set to write the screenplay until his unfortunate passing in 2023. However, since then, Skyfall and Gladiator writer John Logan has officially taken on the difficult task of adapting the novel, with John Hillcoat set to direct, following his work on The Road and The Proposition, so it would seem that progress is still slowly being made on the movie, despite a lack of updates in recent months. Next, we have Butch Sundance, a new western TV show from Amazon Studios created by Kaz and Ryan Firpo, who wrote the Marvel movie The Eternals. And reports suggest that Regé-Jean Page and Glen Powell are in talks to play the titular outlaws, with the story apparently taking place in an alternate version of America, similar to For All Mankind and The Man in the High Castle. There are even talks of it being the start of a larger franchise, with multiple series and spin-offs. But updates on the show have been few and far between since its announcement, so it's unclear how close it is to entering production. A show that is confirmed for 2026 is the fourth season of the underrated neo-western crime series Dark Winds, which follows two Navajo tribal police officers investigating crimes across the Southwest in the 1970s. And after 3 well-received seasons, Dark Winds will officially be returning for a new 8-episode season due to premiere on AMC on Sunday the 15th of February. Also recently confirmed is a new Yellowstone spin-off called Dutton Ranch, which will continue the story of the flagship show by focusing on Beth Dutton and Rip Wheeler in their fight to preserve the famous Yellowstone Ranch. Now interestingly, creator Taylor Sheridan will only be producing the show, instead handing off the showrunner position to Chad Feehan, who previously created Lawmen Bass Reeves. And filming on this new show already began back in August 2025, so Dutton Ranch should premiere sometime soon this year. On the topic of Taylor Sheridan, the writer and director is also working on a film inspired by the Western novel Empire of the Summer Moon by S.C. Glen, detailing the 4-decade-long struggle between the Comanche tribe and white settlers for control of the American West. And Taylor Sheridan has long viewed this adaptation as a passion project, having already obtained the blessing of the book's author. The only problem is that Sheridan is already attached to so many new projects as it is, that it might take him a while to get round to making it. Also in the works is Fallon, an upcoming Western movie based on a novel by the famous Western author Louis L'Amour. So the film is set to follow gambler Macon Fallon, who sets out to con an idealistic group of pioneers for some quick cash, with the script reportedly being written by Peter Chiarelli, best known for writing Now You See Me Too. However, as of recording, there have been no new updates on the adaptation since its announcement. On the topic of Louis L'Amour, another one of his Western novels called Flint is getting a big screen adaptation starring Josh Holloway, who plays the titular New York businessman that returns to the American West after learning that he's dying, which forces him to confront his violent past, as well as the legacy of the killer who raised him. And the film has just recently wrapped filming in Montana, so expect Flint to release very soon. Now, it would be remiss of me not to mention Horizon and American Saga Chapter 2, the long-awaited follow-up to the epic Kevin Costner western that he personally funded, only for it to flop at the box office. Now, Chapter 2 was originally supposed to release not long after the first film, but it's now been delayed for well over a year, despite being fully filmed and having already premiered. So it's a strange situation that only seems to get stranger with various ongoing legal issues behind the scenes. As such, there is still no official word yet on when or if Horizon Chapter 2 will ever release, but there's only so long Kevin Costner can stay radio silent, so I'll keep you posted about what happens next either way. So next up we have Hour of Reckoning, an upcoming modern-day western produced by the same company behind John Wick and Sicario, which is heavily rumoured to star former Young Guns star Kiefer Sutherland. At this stage though, all we know about the story is that it will follow a retired lawman who returns to his hometown to investigate his brother's death, uncovering a criminal empire in the process. So keep an eye out for more info about the movie soon, as it's reportedly set to start shooting early this year. Another project worth talking about is a second season of Justified City Primeval, given that its ending left the story on a huge cliffhanger that appeared to be laying the groundwork for a big reunion between Raylan Givens and Boyd Crowder. However, it would seem that the series still hasn't received a green light, despite many of the cast voicing an interest in returning. But just recently, Timothy Oliphant gave an optimistic update on a second season, saying, "I would love it. I know Walton would love to do it. The fact that they let the writers put that sort of cliffhanger at the end of this, I assume that means they're interested, but I don't know." So it sounds like it's still very possible that Raylan could make one last return to our TV screens, but for now it would seem that Justified is in limbo until FX make a decision about how to proceed. Also coming soon is more Landman, the popular neo-western TV show from Yellowstone creator Taylor Sheridan, that stars Billy Bob Thornton as a landman in West Texas, navigating the cutthroat world of the modern-day oil industry. So following a wave of critical acclaim and surging viewership, Paramount has decided to issue the show an early renewal, meaning that there shouldn't be long to wait for Landman Season 3, and I would imagine that a fourth season is on the cards too. Now, one of the biggest recent Western announcements is that a new take on Lonesome Dove is officially in the works, courtesy of Teton Ridge Entertainment, who have just landed the rights to the Lonesome Dove literary franchise, with a view to adapt it into new films and TV shows. Now, they'll obviously have their work cut out topping the original 1989 miniseries, but they will have the benefit of being able to adapt all of the books in the series within one continuity, with the same actors and creatives, which would be interesting to see. But right now, the adaptation is still very much in the early stages of development, so I'll keep you updated about its progress throughout 2026. So do make sure to subscribe and ring the bell so that you don't miss out on those videos. Also on the way is a film called Man of War, a modern western from Paramount starring Samuel L. Jackson. And in the film, he plays a retired general who returns to his hometown in rural Georgia only to find it overtaken by corruption and exploitation, forcing him to wage war against those responsible. So with a completed script and Jackson officially attached, the film is now in pre-production and should be gearing up to start filming soon. Next up is Normal, a new original neo-western crime thriller directed by Ben Wheatley and starring Bob Odenkirk, who plays a sheriff in a small Minnesota town hiding a violent criminal underworld. So the film blends slow burn tension with explosive action and should appeal to anybody that enjoyed the Nobody films that also starred Odenkirk. And having already premiered last year at the Toronto Film Festival to a strong reception, Normal is now all set for its full release on April 17th this year. Up next, we have Nowhere Fast, a Texas-set crime thriller starring Chris Pine, which sounds very much like a spiritual sequel to Hell or High Water. And the film is being written and directed by Fargo creator Noah Hawley, and follows a small-town criminal whose life spirals after he accidentally kills his boss's nephew. Now at the moment, Nowhere Fast is still in pre-production, but keep an eye out for more news on the film in 2026. Also in the pipeline is Ragdoll, a new Netflix series focused on a legendary rodeo champion mentoring a young girl, while facing off against an up-and-coming bull riding star who threatens his legacy. Set in Texas, the show is set to blend cowboy culture with family drama, which suggests this could be another attempt by Netflix to draw in the big Yellowstone audience following its cancellation. If that were the case, it would make sense why the show was set to be fronted by 1883 star Tim McGraw, but due to an injury, he was forced to drop out, causing filming to be delayed. So as it stands, the status of the show is pretty unclear. Another major project on the horizon is The Dark Tower, Mike Flanagan's long-awaited TV adaptation of Stephen King's sprawling fantasy western Saga. And Flanagan has confirmed that multiple scripts are already written, and that the show will be a faithful multi-season adaptation of the books that already has King's blessing. The only problem is that Flanagan is juggling multiple projects right now, including a new Carrie miniseries and a big-budget Exorcist film. But in a recent interview with Empire magazine, he confirmed that the series is still very much alive, and that he's determined to right the wrongs of the poorly received 2017 Dark Tower movie. Another classic western getting a remake this year is The Gunfighter, with Ethan Hawke set to co-write a new version of the classic 1950 Gregory Peck film. And apparently Hawke has been a long-time fan of the original film, and plans to produce the remake and possibly even direct it. But as of recording, the movie is still in early development, so it might be a bit of a wait. Also announced is a sequel to the popular 2021 western The Harder They Fall, with its creator James Samuel confirming that he's developing a follow-up for Netflix, which will serve as a prequel to the original movie, which famously united all of the most famous real-life black figures from the Wild West in one film. Samuel also revealed that the script is nearly finished, and that several original cast members are expected to return, but exact details remain under wraps. So after the success of the 2021 western Old Henry, Hideout Pictures is returning to the genre with The Isolate Thief, a Civil War-era western starring Sean Bean and Mackenzie Foy. And in the film, she plays a young woman attempting to protect stolen gold from a ruthless gang of outlaws in a remote winter outpost, promising a tense survival tale with lots of twists. And with The Isolate Thief currently in post-production, you can expect it to release sometime in 2026. So following the cancellation of Yellowstone, the big flagship series primed to take its place is The Madison, a new neo-western TV series from Taylor Sheridan set in the same universe. And much like its predecessor, The Madison features a star-studded cast, including Michelle Pfeiffer, Matthew Fox, and Kurt Russell. So with 2 seasons of the show reportedly already filmed, you can expect The Madison to be a big deal when it finally premieres sometime in 2026. Also on the way is a new film called The Madness of Judge Jeremiah Doherty, a hard-hitting neo-western thriller starring Cuba Gooding Jr., with the film following a Texas judge who partners with a cartel assassin after his wife is kidnapped in a failed hit. And production on the film is scheduled to begin in early 2026, so the movie could well be out before the end of the year. Up next, we have the big news that The Magnificent Seven is heading to the small screen courtesy of MGM+, with officially greenlit a new 8-episode adaptation of the classic 1960 western. Set in the 1880s, the show will tell the story of a group of 7 mercenaries hired to defend a peaceful Quaker village, with the new TV format allowing for a deeper exploration of each member of the gang. And encouragingly, the show will be helmed by Heroes creator Tim Kring, and produced by Lawrence Mirisch, the son of one of the original movie's producers. So with filming scheduled to begin in June, keep an eye out for casting announcements in the next few months. Now, the one upcoming space western I have to mention just happens to be a big one, as The Mandalorian and Grogu will be the first Star Wars film to release in cinemas in 7 years, starring Pedro Pascal and Sigourney Weaver, in what will be a feature film continuation of the 2019 TV series. So the film will be directed by its creator Jon Favreau, and reports suggest that it will lean heavily into the space western tone that defined its popular first 2 seasons, with the film scheduled to hit theaters on May 22nd. Also in the works is The Oregon Trail, a new Apple movie inspired by the classic video game that had you guiding settlers west in the 19th century. But interestingly, the film is said to lean into action comedy territory, with Blades of Glory directors Will Speck and Josh Gordon attached to direct, with teased that the movie will feature numerous musical numbers. So it'll be interesting to see how this adaptation turns out, but with it still in early development, it's likely still some way off from release. So up next, we have The Rescue, a new modern western from Old Henry director Pozzi Ponsaroli. Now, not much is known about the plot at this stage, but the film will reportedly follow a rodeo cowboy forced to test his skills outside the arena, with 1923's Brandon Sklenar attached to star. But again, the film is currently in pre-production, so it could be a while until it releases. Another upcoming film is The Wolf and the Lamb, a western horror thriller set in 1870s Montana, and the film follows a widowed schoolteacher searching for her missing son, only for him to return monstrously changed by unknown forces. Now, as it stands, there's no word yet on a release date, but with the movie already filmed and in post-production, it should be out sometime soon. Also on the way is Timberlands, a modern western drama starring Wes Studi. Set in Oregon, the film reportedly centers around 2 feuding families in the timber industry, with a story that's already drawn comparisons to Yellowstone. And with filming complete, Timberlands should be releasing soon in the coming months. Now, another project in the works is an untitled western movie from Alexander Payne, the acclaimed director behind Election, Sideways, and The Holdovers. And the film is reportedly set in snowy 1886 Nebraska, and is said to be inspired by classic Anthony Mann westerns like Winchester 73 and Bend of the River. But other than that, details about the movie are being kept tightly under wraps, so stay tuned for more details in the year ahead. So one intriguing rumour worth mentioning is that Robert Eggers, the director of The Lighthouse and Nosferatu, is said to be considering a western as one of his future projects. Now, nothing has been confirmed as of yet, and the director has already committed to 2 new films before that in Werewolf and an untitled Labyrinth sequel, but it would be really interesting to see his take on the western genre in the future. Now, a film that is confirmed to be in production is Where the Sparrows Fly, a bleak frontier western starring Tim Blake Nelson, returning to the genre after his memorable roles in The Ballad of Buster Scruggs and Old Henry. And this time around, he'll be playing a drifting conman on the run through the wilderness after a scam turns deadly, causing guilt and paranoia to erode his grip on reality. So with filming currently underway in Spain, hopefully the movie will be with us before the end of 2026. Next up is Wind River Rising, a surprise sequel to Taylor Sheridan's acclaimed 2017 neo-western. However, Sheridan won't be involved this time around, nor will its original stars, but Martin Sensmeyer and Gil Birmingham will reprise their roles alongside newcomers Scott Eastwood and Jason Clarke, who play FBI agents investigating a wave of murders on the same snowy reservation that featured in the first film. And the sequel has actually been filmed for over a year, but its release was reportedly delayed due to a legal issue. However, in October 2025, Jason Clarke suggested that the problem had now been resolved, and that the film should be coming out soon. Now, possibly the most exciting new western on the way is Young Guns 3: Dead or Alive, a new film in the beloved franchise that will see Emilio Estevez reprise his role as Billy the Kid, and also direct from a script he co-wrote with Young Guns creator John Fusco. On top of this, Lou Diamond Phillips and Christian Slater will also reprise their original roles, while introducing a new cast of regulators in a story set during the Mexican Revolution. And after years of languishing in production hell, Young Guns 3 is finally set to start filming in New Mexico soon, so stay tuned for more updates about the production in the months ahead. Also on the way is another Yellowstone spin-off called Marshals, which sees Luke Grimes reprise his role as Casey Dutton in a procedural-style neo-western crime drama. And although it's set in the Yellowstone universe, it'll be a much different show, following Casey as he joins an elite unit of US Marshals in Montana, with the 13-episode series officially premiering on CBS on March 1st. Staying on the topic of Yellowstone, also in development is 1944, the latest prequel series that follows on from 1883 and 1923. So much like those shows, the series will follow a new generation of the Dutton family during the final years of World War II, and is expected to be written by Taylor Sheridan, but given how many shows he's currently attached to, it's probably no surprise that there's been no official update on this series in quite a while, so expect more info on its progress either way in the year ahead. It's also a similar story for 4 Sixes, a long-teased contemporary Yellowstone spin-off set on the famous Texas ranch of the same name, which Taylor Sheridan has actually purchased. Now, not that much has been revealed about the plot as it stands, but given that Yellowstone has already seeded the idea of Jimmy and Emily being based at 4 Sixes, it's widely expected that Jefferson White and Catherine Kelly will reprise their roles as regulars in the series. But again, with Taylor Sheridan spread so thin and the Yellowstone franchise in flux right now, we'll have to wait and see if it ever actually comes together. And as of recording, that is every Western coming our way soon. So if you found this video useful, it'd be great if you could leave it a like, and you might also want to check out this video right here.